Hey, I'm Bree, aka Briczennie, and I survived Camp LA.
I'm saying I don't wanna come down from your love. We'll get lost together like we fight. Don't ever let me come down from your love. From your love. From your love.
Hey guys, it's Briczennie. Welcome back to my channel. Over the weekend, Camp LA, KAMP Global, an event named Asia's quote, premier K-pop experience was trending online, and unfortunately not for a good reason. Believe it or not, I was there and witnessed the absolute chaos in real time, and I'm here to give you a rundown on exactly what happened and why Camp LA was a complete mess from start to finish and an utter disappointment for K-pop fans and artists alike. Before we get into this video though, I want to first thank my lovely channel members, Misa, Night Skin Nihonjin, Kaylin Caster, King Leonidas, Miriam, BB Fine, Vermilion, and Alice Loves Cherry. I appreciate your support and I hope my content is able to bring a smile to your faces here and there. Thank you so much for being a member. If you'd also like to become a member, you can click join under this video or you can use the link in the pinned comment. I also want to mention that I will be covering points concerning this event that I feel are the most important or that stuck out the most to me, but if you were at the event or have any thoughts to share about it, please do so in the comments if you feel I missed anything. And also stay tuned to the end because I did interview a few people who attended the event as well. So without further ado, let's talk about Camp LA. So what is Camp LA? KAMP Global's Camp LA was marketed as a premier K-pop experience on the United States West Coast. The event was to be a 2-day festival taking place on October 15th and 16th at the Rose Bowl Stadium in Pasadena, California. The first day lineup was heavily stacked with artists Lapilis, P1 Harmony, Joan Solmi, iKON, Bam Bam, Kai, Taeyeon, and Super Junior T1419 scheduled to perform, while on day 2, Momoland, T1419, recently rebranded as TNF, Zion T, Chungha, EPIK, aespa, and Monsta X were scheduled to burn the stage. When my friend initially told me about this event in August, I was shocked. Having so many great artists, many of which I loved, like Kai, Monsta X, and aespa in one festival seemed like a dream come true. So I was ready to travel from the East Coast to the West Coast to attend. Although I had never heard of the company KAMP Global, I felt a bit reassured when I realized they had run a similar event called Camp Singapore in 2019, which seemed to be quite a success, featuring artists like NCT 127, one of my alts by the way, Super Junior, G-Friend, WJSN, and more. I also found the format of a K-pop festival super exciting since we haven't really had an event like this in the United States so far, at least to my knowledge, which is why KAMP Global was marketing this event as historic, so I was thrilled to be a part of it. Now that we have an idea of what Camp LA is and how it was marketed by KAMP Global, let's discuss the event itself, starting with the ticketing process. Camp LA tickets were available via pre-sale on August 19th at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Attendees could register for the pre-sale ahead of time and were told that they would receive an email or text with a pre-sale code before the tickets went on sale. This is pretty standard for K-pop events to have pre-sale registration. However, usually with pre-sale, you receive your pre-sale code to access or unlock the available tickets anywhere from a day or two before pre-sale begins to a few hours before. 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time came and went, and pre-sale codes still hadn't been sent out. Everyone was forced to wait, wondering what was going on and when tickets would be available for purchase. I remember checking Twitter and I saw a lot of potential attendees tweeting at KAMP Global, expressing confusion and asking where the pre-sale codes were. I kid you not, I received a text with the pre-sale code about 20 minutes after the tickets went on sale, which was nerve-wracking to say the least. But regardless, I managed to unlock the tickets on the AXS site and purchased 3 2-day tickets for myself and my 2 friends. I will say I'm not a fan of the AXS site for buying tickets. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I prefer Ticketmaster. When I was purchasing the tickets, I wasn't even able to select them based on a seat map or anything. The site pretty much just gave me what was available, and after the tickets were in my cart, I had to go back and see where on the map they were located. I don't know if anyone else had this issue, and I guess that's more on AXS than KAMP Global, but I just wanted to mention it. So as you can see, the disorganization of this event started with pre-sale, with codes not even being sent to potential attendees on time, but instead about 20 minutes late. 3 days before day 1 of the event, October 12th, things got even weirder. Both myself and my friend received a mysterious email from KAMP Global. Apparently we had, quote, 1 free tickets. Although I had already purchased 3 tickets full price back in August. With the code CAMPWINNER, we were able to redeem free tickets on the AXS site. We both decided to try it out because we were in disbelief at first, but we figured although we already had 3 tickets, if anything, we could try to get upgraded tickets for free. So we went to the AXS site, and much to our surprise, we were able to get better seats for free, taking us from section 6L to section 14L, which was closer and more center stage. But this was a red flag, and we had questions. Why was KAMP Global giving out free tickets 3 days before the event? A quick Twitter search showed me that many people had received the same exact email, and my question was, why were there so many available seats when we'd gone to snatch our free tickets 3 days before the event? Had KAMP Global overestimated the attendance and had then been unable to sell enough seats? Were they trying to give away tickets to fill up an empty stadium? We were a bit concerned, to say the least, but with our flight, hotel, and tickets already purchased, we decided to just go with the flow. Yeah, things seemed pretty all over the place and disorganized, but not much more could go wrong, right? Well, the ticketing confusion was only the beginning. Things got very bad very quickly. On October 14th, Bam Bam from Got7 tweeted 3 emojis, foreshadowing what was to come, and Jun Somi uploaded a troubling picture to her Instagram story. Shortly after, KAMP LA released a statement announcing that Bam Bam, Jun Somi, Kai, Lapilis, Taeyeon, and Zion T would be unable to attend the event, quote, due to unforeseen US work visa issues and circumstances outside of the artists' and promoters' control. Fans quickly put together that this was not entirely true, especially once SM released their statements on behalf of Kai and Taeyeon, explaining that they had cooperated completely and submitted all documentation in advance, but the organizer, or KAMP Global, was to blame for not getting the work visas approved. SM also explained that the reason they hadn't made a statement earlier was because KAMP Global had pretty much waited until the last minute to check the status of the pending visa applications for the artists, only to let SM know that Kai and Taeyeon's visas hadn't been approved until the very last minute. To make matters worse, Starship Entertainment released a statement on October 15th announcing that Monsta X would also be dropping out of KAMP LA Day 2 and their iHeart Radio Live event the following day, since KAMP Global failed to process their work visas as well. According to Starship, KAMP Global had actually asked them to stay silent on the issue until they released their statement first, but Starship wasn't having it, stating that they had waited long enough and the fans deserved to know what was going on. Hours later, KAMP LA finally released their statement addressing the issue. To further explain the process, it is up to K-pop companies to submit the needed documentations on behalf of their artists to KAMP Global. Since KAMP Global is, quote, the employer or the person who is paying the K-pop companies and artists attending here in the United States, it is up to them to file the petition for the work visa to the US Department of State and follow up on it accordingly. SM, Starship, and the other involved companies submitted their documentation as required, knowing how this process works and that K-pop companies are no strangers to getting visas to work and tour overseas. It's without a doubt KAMP Global's fault that the visas from all involved parties weren't approved, and thus the artists had to drop out of the event. And initially I was like, why is it that some artists were able to come and some weren't? I really don't know, but I'm assuming with artists like P1 Harmony and aespa that have both toured in the United States this year, I'm assuming that maybe their visas were still good or there wasn't as much paperwork to submit, so for some reason they were able to come with no issue. Like many others planning to go to KAMP LA, I was beyond disappointed. Me and my friends were in our hotel room discussing our frustration. Although we had seen some red flags initially with this event, we were still disappointed as we were really looking forward to seeing some of our favorite artists like Kai, Monsta X, and Zion T. To add fuel to the fire, KAMP's refund policy was pretty questionable, allowing fans only until 12 p.m. PDT October 15th for day 1 refunds and 12 p.m. PDT October 16th for day 2 refunds via a Google form. You'd think that they'd give fans more time given that they waited so long to let anyone know what was going on. By October 14th, most fans traveling from other states had probably already boarded flights and or checked into their hotels, wasting time and money, so it was literally like a slap in the face. Not to mention the artists and their companies who had undoubtedly spent time, money, and effort preparing for this event as well. To make matters worse, on October 14th, when word of unapproved visa issues were circulating online, KAMP Global chose to tweet videos of iKON arriving at the airport instead of addressing the issue and letting fans know what the hell was going on and if they'd be able to see their favorite idols. I honestly found that to be so unprofessional, and it really showed how little the organizers care about the situation, whether we're talking about the artists or the fans here. Journalist Jeff Benjamin picked up the story, writing an article about the mess of an event on Billboard, and news of KAMP Global completely dropping the ball began to spread like wildfire online. Besides the refunds to remedy the issue, KAMP Global announced that to make up for the artists that couldn't attend, the remaining artist set list would be lengthened, and Momoland and T1419, or now rebranded as TFN, both from MLD Entertainment, would perform on both days 1 and 2. So despite it all, how was the event? Was it worth me traveling from the East Coast, Washington DC, to touch down on the West Coast at LAX to attend the event in Pasadena? Let's talk about it. First of all, I want to point out that the Rose Bowl was dead, especially on day 1. Don't let the zoom and purposefully done camera angles on the KAMP Global Twitter page fool you. The Rose Bowl holds 90,000 people, maybe closer to 45K for this event, since the venue does have a bowl-shaped layout, and obviously no seats behind the stage were sold for this event. But I honestly don't even think that 1/4 of these 45K seats were filled. It was just that bad. There was so much empty space. From this shot here, where P1 Harmony opens on day 1, you can see that the GA section was a ghost town. I was sitting in section 14 in the bleachers pretty much center stage, and there were even tons of empty seats around me. I feel bad for both P1 Harmony and TFN, who performed right after, because there was just barely anyone there at this point. I would say the crowd didn't really begin to pick up until iKON came on stage, and that's when the crowd really came to life and stayed that way until Super Junior ended on day 1 with their stellar performance. While day 2 was going on, by the way, KAMP Global was continuing to give away tickets, including GA tickets for optics, because it was really just that bad. This giving away tickets continued into day 2, where you could see a visible difference in the amount of attendees. KAMP was desperate to save face and fill the seats as much as they possibly could, and this outcome was obvious. When you screw up like this, leading to the big name headliners of the event like Kai, Taeyeon, and Monsta X dropping out, people are just not going to show up. They're going to get a refund and not come. I'm going to be honest, if I were a local and hadn't already booked a flight and hotel, once I heard Kai and Monsta X weren't coming, or any of my favorite artists for that matter, I probably wouldn't have gone. They are the main reason I decided to attend the event, so having so many heavy-hitting performers forced to drop because of KAMP's lack of due diligence definitely affected the turnout. This event could have been successful, could have been a full house if things were executed properly. I also think that the event wasn't promoted well, but that's for another time. I'm not going to get into this in this video. And remember how I said earlier that 3 days before the event, people started getting emails that they'd won free tickets, me included? I think that KAMP was doing this because they knew what was going to happen with the visas. Although they lied in their statements and made it seem like the issues with the visas were just brought to their attention and were beyond their control, I think KAMP knew the visas wouldn't be approved in time, and in an effort to offshoot the people who wouldn't show up, knowing that their favorite idols couldn't attend anymore, they figured they'd start giving away free tickets to boost attendance. Now I want to talk about the technical difficulties and the staff. First, I want to talk about KAMP's translator, Kelly. If you've been to K-pop concerts, you probably know it's customary for idols to bring translators with them to translate Korean to English for fans. Translating is not an easy job. You have to think and speak quickly on your feet and appropriately convey the artist's message. But let's just say Kelly either wasn't prepared or didn't even try. On day 1, she asked TNF who the maknae in the group was twice, but the icing on the cake was when she asked them who in the group was the best BTS impersonator. I'm sorry, but what kind of question is that? Out of all the things you could ask these idols who traveled across the globe to be here, you could ask them about their music, their recording process, choreography process. You're gonna ask them to impersonate BTS? I think the question was extremely tone deaf and stereotypical, especially knowing how every single K-pop group seems to be compared to BTS in Western media. The question was disappointing and offensive to say the least, but member Xian answered saying that they really respect BTS, and he also sang a bit of serendipity and pretty much left it at that. I also want to mention an instance with Super Junior. Can't remember which member it was, but I understood a bit of it. Basically in Korean, one of them made a comment like they were happy to see such a diverse group of fans, men, women, older women, etc. And instead of communicating that, Kelly said something like, "We're so happy to see everybody here." Even the members laughed at that translation and spoke up themselves to try to translate what they had said in English English more word for word. I'm sorry, but the translation job was just lazy and the worst I've seen at an event. On top of that, there were some stage difficulties as well. When TNF came out to start their performance, the staff played the wrong track and the group awkwardly waited, holding their formation before just walking off stage and coming back on stage later with Kelly, the staff, to do an awkward introduction. I could feel the secondhand embarrassment and I felt so bad for them. They were playing TNF's song Dracula, and I'm not sure if they were supposed to play a different song completely or play the correct version of Dracula, which would be the instrumental with a backtrack for the group to sing to, not just the studio version which was played instead. Later that day when iKON performed, DK yelled for the staff to turn up the monitors because it seems the members were having issues hearing in their in-ears, and on day 2 when Chungha performed, there were a couple songs where her singing was a few beats behind the actual track because her in-ears were off as well. I also noticed a huge difference between the sound quality of day 1 and 2, which means someone must have complained and adjustments were made. Also, on day 1 it was raining, and after walking to the extended stage, I saw Momoland member Jui slip and almost fall twice. After Momoland finished their set, the staff came on to wipe down the floor before iKON came on. To be honest, this was a safety hazard. The floor should have been wiped before Momoland walked to the extended stage, or at least addressed after the first song when Jui almost slipped. One of the members could have slipped, fallen, and gotten seriously hurt. I also felt that the artists' sets were very rushed. Each artist only had time for 4 or 5 songs before they had to leave the stage. There wasn't much time for interaction between fans and the artists and actual performances before it was time for the next artist to take the stage. I think an approach with less artists, split across 2 days with longer sets, would have been more ideal, but that's just me. I mean, can you imagine traveling across the world like that, being forced to perform 4 or 5 songs? aespa's set seems super rushed with the least time for fan interaction. I think they should have gotten a longer set since they are one of the biggest groups that performed at camp and ended day 2. I also want to share this clip of EPIK High Tablo addressing the entire situation because he was so real for this, he was so shady, and I honestly couldn't have said it better myself.
There are times in your life where you feel like everything is going to shit. You feel like all the plans you made, all the hopes you had, no matter how well organized and prepared in advance, don't matter because it's not in your control. We have mad respect for the people that can take a bad situation and try to turn it into something positive. Shout out to all the artists that came out this weekend, despite all the difficulty, and worked very hard to put on a good show for all of you that are here. Also, shout out to everyone that wanted to be here but couldn't make it. I know for a fact that every artist that wanted to be here tonight, they really wanted to be here. They prepared very much, and things just didn't go according to plan. But I'm sure they would love to be here with you tonight. So shout out to all the artists. In more ways than one, tonight will be historical. No matter what anyone says.
As someone who spent so much time and money to be here, it really made me feel better to hear him address the issue like he did. Especially since being the type of artist he is, being where he is in his career, he can pretty much say whatever he wants without having to worry about repercussion from his company like K-pop Idol, so it was just great that he spoke up on this. So in short, the artists made this event what it was, not camp. Without their hard work and perseverance, the event would have been even more of a nightmare. So much love to Momoland, TNF, P1 Harmony, aespa, iKON, Super Junior, EPIK High, and Chungha for literally saving the day. As SM Trash, seeing Suju and aespa were definitely the highlights for me, as well as iKON, who I've liked for a very long time, who are just amazing. Hearing Sorry Sorry, seeing Lee Tuk's beautiful face, and hearing Winter's, oh my god, don't you know I'm a savage, definitely added 10 years to my lifespan. But overall, I'm so glad I decided to see NCT 127 the day before flying out to LA, instead of just going to camp and not seeing NCT, because if I had missed seeing my ults for going to camp instead, seeing how it turned out, I would have been so disappointed. Like, I was so excited to see Kai and Monsta X, and they weren't even there. My heart also goes out to the artists who couldn't make it, because I cannot imagine how awful they feel wanting to see their fans and wanting to perform. Bam Bam's tweet specifically really moved me because I could feel his disappointment and guilt. He definitely felt like he had let down his fans, although it wasn't his fault at all, and I know that he really wanted to be there. I also feel for all the fans that paid to be there, some even traveling from other states relocates, taking time off work, paying hundreds of dollars for flights and hotels just to be met with this disappointment. Sure, KAMP Global can refund the tickets for the event, but what about all those other expenses that could have been avoided if KAMP LA would have just communicated the issues they were having earlier? I saw so many people at the event with Aribongs, Moondongis, who were still there, deciding to make the best out of the situation, even though Kai, Taeyeon, and Monsta X weren't there, as well as the other artists that people really wanted to see. And speaking of fans, I'd like to take the time to share stories from a few fans that attended the event so you can hear about their experiences at KAMP LA. So first up, we have Princess Shawol Ki, and Princess Shawol Ki says, the ticketing process wasn't too bad. I do think the prices were very outrageous. GA tickets were $500 and VIP was around $2K. Also, I was highly pissed to find out people were given free GA and VIP tickets when people paid full price. The visa issues were so unprofessional. KAMP should have made sure everything was finalized weeks before the event. It has been rumored that Super Junior paid for their visa to come over here last, and when trying to get that visa, it can cost up to $4,000. KAMP did an awful job communicating. I actually texted them on Instagram about the situation, and they left me on red, lol. Wish they could have communicated more instead of posting fans on their Instagram story. When I saw that over half the lineup wasn't coming, I wanted to cry. I spent over $600 to fly to LA to see Taeyeon and Kai. They were the main two I wanted to see. I was very upset. The overall performances were amazing. Super Junior, iKON, P1 Harmony, Momoland, T1419, EPIK, Chungha, and aespa really saved the event. They all had a great stage presence, and I loved the interactions among fans. On a bad note, the staff was terrible. There were audio issues for T1419, Momoland, and aespa. During aespa's performance, the lights shut off, and during T1419's performance, they played the song before the boys were even ready. Also, the translator was so terrible. Her asking T1419 to do their best BTS impressions was straight up disrespectful. Also, I didn't like the fact that they rushed aespa and Chungha. Both barely had time to interact with fans, especially aespa. They were singing back to back and only performed for 30 minutes when they were headliners for day 2. If I knew half of the artists weren't coming, I wouldn't have bought tickets. I would have went to go see NCT 127, lol. My favorite part of the performance was definitely T1419, aespa, and Super Junior's performances. I was in the front of the GA floor and got to wave and make eye contact with some of the idols. They were very sweet and they looked like they were having fun. Some took fans' phones to record. I met some awesome fans here and the vibe was great. I also love that Tablo was calling out KAMP about this whole situation. He was hilarious and I'm glad he had no filter about it. If I could sum up KAMP LA, I would say it was fun but not worth my money. Kinda harsh, but I was expecting to see my faves and didn't get that. The only thing that saved it was the idols that were there giving 200% to make up for KAMP's mistakes. And this next one is from Lucy, one of my Discord mods, aka Jungyeon's kneecaps on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to them because they are planning on uploading their own YouTube video on this event, specifically about their experience seeing a ssang at the event. A ssang that literally got dragged out of the event by security. So make sure to subscribe to Lucy's channel. So Lucy said, upon hearing the news about the involved artists, I was immediately disappointed. Not only for myself, but for the people who traveled far just to see those artists. It almost felt like KAMP used them as an attraction and dropped them last minute, and the announcement a day before was honestly unbelievable. I still feel awful for people who had to travel even further than me to get there. I consider myself to be an optimist, and I was still excited to see P1 Harmony for the third time since I ult them, but it was disappointing nonetheless as they dropped some of the most anticipated artists from the set list. Even with this news, I kept my hopes up for the festival. I have multiple issues with the performances that I can list below. A. P1 Harmony had a ridiculously short set list. They only received 30 minutes with no encore, shorter than both 2-day performers as a day 1 performer, even after KAMP said they'd lengthen set lists. KAMP should have equally distributed time changes, not given some time to some artists and smaller time to others. I feel bad for day 1 Momoland. The consistent technical issues and slipping was so sad to see, but they still catered and had a great performance. I commend their fantastic performance and stage presence, even with the weather issues. They had such a great attitude. iKON's mic and audio issues were also laughable and should have been solved prior to their stage. The members shouldn't have had to ask the staff to fix it. It shouldn't have been an issue in the first place. KAMP was an awesome experience and I'm very privileged to have been able to attend at no cost, but if I actually had to pay for the tickets, I probably would not have bought them. This is mostly due to the price. I think that the tickets were far too expensive for the messy and unorganized ordeal that KAMP put their attendees through, and I wouldn't want to have to deal with that at a loss for my own wallet. I'd much rather save for a concert from a more reliable franchise such as KCON, as they were similarly priced. My favorite part about KAMP LA was the fact that I got to interact with modern and older K-pop stans alike. Because of artists like Suju and iKON attending day 1, I was surrounded by fans from generations before me, and talking to them was a really awesome experience. I'm so thankful for all the people I met. KAMP Camp as a whole is an incredibly disappointing situation with all of the visa issues and shady disorganization from the franchise. Even with the mess, I honestly had a really fantastic time and I tried to make the best out of the entire experience. I'd be lying if I said that the experience at the concert was not fun, because I personally had a really awesome time and I'd definitely go again if I had another opportunity to at no cost. Camp at the end of the day deserves all of the backlash that they are receiving for how awfully they handled organizing the event, but all of the artists who attended put on a very enjoyable and exciting performance that I'll never forget. And lastly, we have Oge, who reached out to me on Discord. Hello, I went to Camp LA day 1 with a friend and we were so unhappy with the organizers and most importantly not seeing the artists that were originally advertised. I mostly anticipated Kai's performance, especially since he's my alt and will be going to the military soon. The worst part was not being able to cancel our flights because it was less than 20 hours until my flight time. In addition, Camp LA organizers announced the whole issue with the visa late, and I believe it was on purpose. My friend and I discussed that because they weren't able to sell tickets, they were also unable to afford the original lineup. That might be the reason the organizers didn't process the visas of most of the artists and were not transparent with the people who purchased the tickets. One thing is for sure, I will no longer attend any K-pop festival. These organizers do not know how to plan K-pop festivals, and most importantly, treat K-pop fans with respect. And okay, you brought up a really good point. It didn't even cross my mind that Camp LA potentially didn't have enough funds to pay the artists that they didn't process visas for. Especially when you think about the fact that there were still so many tickets available. Even 3 days before the event, free tickets were being given away. I saw a lot of empty seats on the seat map. And the fact that even during day 1 and 2, the organizers were still struggling to get good attendance by giving out free tickets. It makes you think, why would you give away so many free tickets? Don't you want to make money? I think it's very possible that they purposely dropped the ball because they couldn't afford the lineup, especially big names like Taeyeon, Monsta X, and Kai. It's kind of adding up, so I think you might be onto something here. So thank you so much for sharing your point of view. And of course, I also want to thank all of the interviewees that were so nice enough to reach out to me. So thank you to Princess Shawl Ki, Jonghyun's Kneecaps, and Oge for making this portion of the video possible, because it was so interesting reading your feedback and hearing what you thought of the event and getting to know what your experience was like. So thank you so much for your participation. So I guess the moral of the story here is Camp LA was a rushed, disorganized mess of a cash grab to capitalize on the growing popularity of K-pop, and the only silver lining here seems to be the amazing artists who were able to perform and the lovely K-pop fans that spread the good vibes despite the mishaps. No thanks to Kamp Global. The idea was great, but the execution was horrible, and I honestly don't know what went wrong, considering Camp Singapore 2019 seemed to be a success from what I've seen. So in the future, if you see a poorly planned event like this that seems to have a few red flags, be wary and know it's probably too good to be true. Also, if you are trying to get a refund from Camp LA and are having issues, please remember to contact AXS or your bank directly. Do not let them scam you out of your money. If you've made it this far, I'd advise you to watch out if you see another event planned by Kamp Global or Event Neem Asia. Please do not support these organizations because it's obvious they have no respect for artists or fans. And if you can, please share this video for awareness. If you were at Camp LA too, let me know in the comments and share your experience of the event. I was sitting in section 14L on day 1 and 13L on day 2, so you might have seen me there. Also, if you weren't at Camp LA, but you heard about this event, if you read articles and then came to this video and found this video informative, please let me know about your thoughts of the event, and if knowing how disorganized it was, if you would have still attended. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. I'd also encourage you to join my Discord server. It's a great place for you to talk to other K-pop fans. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.